And then that's it. You adjourn. You're done. Well, you're not really done. Particularly if you're the secretary and the chair. Those two people are really not done at that point. Because number one, you've got to make sure all of your forms are filled out properly. Make sure, you know, regardless of which form you're using, unless you have a secret ballot, you've got to make sure everybody's designated as either a Romanoff, a Bennett, or uncommitted, you know, who voted in the preference poll. You got to make sure the people who were elected precinct committee person have filled out those forms that they're mentioned on the roster as a precinct committee person, or election judges. There's a number of different forms in your packet that have to get filled out. Then you got to get those forms to the county party. You got to, and your county party will have its own way of doing that. Again, if you're in a you know, 10 precinct election spot, obviously there should be just one central location where you take your forms. If you're doing your precinct caucus by yourself, or your own, you know, you're by yourself in your own precinct, then you need to know where to take those things and get those things. I can tell you, as a county chair in a smaller county, I used to hate my county clerk. She was a Democrat, the only elected Democrat we have in Fremont County. She was elected, she became county clerk a month after I was born. That's how long she's been a county clerk. And yet, every caucus night, I would have to go to her house to get the precinct caucus forms from her for her precinct, because she couldn't bring them to me because she took them home with her, and it frustrated the heck out of me. But I had to have them that night. And then we also have to have the results of the preference poll. We're trying to get them by 9:30 that night to the state party. So your county is going to have a reporting mechanism for doing that as well. And they may ask someone from your precinct to run those results into a central location so they can report those even before you're done. As soon as that vote is taken, they may have you run those down the hall to the central area to get those reported. Now, there's always someone who says, oh, Cousin Elsie, she was going to be a delegate. I wanted her to be a delegate. I was going to add her to that list. And this phone call is made 2 days after the precinct caucus to the county party. Once you adjourn the precinct caucus, you're done electing delegates. I'll repeat that. Once you adjourn precinct caucus, you are done electing delegates. Anything you want to do in terms of electing delegates has to be done before you adjourn. If you don't fill all of your spots for your candidate, by the time you adjourn, you get no delegates. Even if you could have elected 7 delegates, if you can't find 7 people to be delegates, by the time you adjourn, you don't get those delegates. They go away forever. You don't get to figure out who those 7 will be later on. What happens next? So I'm going to try to hurry through these. The county assemblies that you've elected delegates to then elect their own delegates to the state and congressional district assemblies. And at those meetings, it's exactly the same process, except there's just a lot more people voting. You have a preference poll, and then each county has a certain number of delegates to the state assembly, and they elect those delegates based on that preference poll. So if your county has 100 delegates to the state assembly, and you end up with a candidate getting 60%, the other one getting 40%, 60 delegates will go to one candidate, 40 delegates will go to the other candidate. As I mentioned earlier, there are 3 weekends in this window where large counties are primarily doing their county assemblies. March 27th, April 3rd, April 10th. I don't have any specifics off the top of my head as to which counties are which. And I've had pictures from different county assemblies. As you can see, they kind of take a different look from county to county. Gilpin County's assembly in 2006, kind of sparsely attended, but it's kind of a sparse county compared to, say, Denver. Congressional district assemblies, again, no later than May 21st, and they'll be at different locations around the state. The state assembly, May 22nd, in Broomfield. That's it. Wow, I got through that. That last part wasn't as long as I thought it would be. Remember, number one, you aren't the first one to ever run a precinct caucus. We've been running precinct caucuses in Colorado for years, for decades, maybe even a century or so. So you're not the first person to have to do this. You're not even the first person in this room to have to do this. You're probably not the first person in your precinct to have to do this. So talk to people around you. Talk to people who've done this before. Talk to your county party. Ask your county chair or people who are running caucuses for your county. Ask them for help. My email address is there, dslater@coloradodems.org. And finally, prepare, prepare, prepare. That'll solve all your problems if you're prepared.
You got to have so many men and then so many women too. How do you handle that?
That's not a hard and fast rule. If you can evenly divide men and women, you should try, but it's not a hard requirement. It's more of a goal as opposed to a requirement in this process. Does that answer your question? So if you can, and quite frankly, I don't think the precincts and caucuses have worried about that too much in the past, and we've ended up with a pretty good mix, I think, in the Democratic Party.
Last time, didn't we?
We did when you got to the national level, and maybe in your county you did as well, Douglas County. I don't know, but the national is very strict, and it is in fact a requirement, but it's more of a goal at the other levels. Any other questions? Yes.
The secret ballot.
Yeah.
How exactly do we conduct that?
All right. Secret ballot is, you just have people fill out you should have some scrap paper or something, have people fill out their vote. They come in, they vote. You count the votes, and then you split up the delegates based on those votes. The problem then becomes when you divide up into your preference groups, how do you know that someone from the Bennett campaign isn't over here in the Romanoff campaign voting for Romanoff delegates? And there's no way to know that. That's the problem with the secret ballot in the caucus when it comes to electing delegates.
I was told to avoid secret ballots if possible.
Well, yeah, I agree with you, because again, the default is not to have a secret ballot, so you don't even want to bring up the option, I think. But the reality is, if one person requests it, it just takes one person to create the secret ballot. It's not a majority vote. It's a one person requests it, it's secret.
Thank you very much.
Thank you guys for coming.
See you after.
All right.